This is the long-awaited YOLOBOX Extreme Complete Tour. If you don't know what the YOLOBOX Extreme is, here's the bullet points. It's an all-in-one 4K 60p live streaming and switching solution, where all-in-one doesn't mean, oh, but you can't do that. It truly does everything in this one box, including monitoring and switching your show, since the entire box is one big 11.2-inch OLED touchscreen. It has 8 HDMI inputs and can run 5 of them at 4K 60p. 2 customizable 4K HDMI outputs, can record program and even ISOs up to 4K 30p, includes a built-in battery for up to 10 hours of use, or can run on USB PD for infinite remote power. It has 6 NDI inputs for wireless cameras, USB inputs for webcam, can play back videos, stills, and presentations from an SD card or attached USB hard drive. It has Ethernet, Wi-Fi with external antennas, and even a SIM slot for cellular streaming without having to tether to your phone. A built-in graphics generator for titles, sports scoring, countdown timers, and more, PTZ camera control, auto switching, chroma key, multi-streaming, live chat overlay, remote guest calling, can be remote controlled from an app or a web browser, yeah, and even more. In this video, you'll learn about all the capabilities of this powerful little box, or not so little, as the case may be. So if you're thinking of getting one, you'll see what all it can do, and if you already have one, you'll likely learn a few things about this little box that you didn't already know. First, some housekeeping. This video was recorded in June 2025, running YOLO Extreme OS 1.8.8. YOLO Live updates their software as often as every 4 to 6 weeks, so if you're not on this exact version, it's entirely possible that they've already added additional features that aren't covered here. That's just how they roll. Also, this video is not sponsored by YOLO Live. However, I have worked closely with the company to ensure I'm giving you accurate and complete information. This isn't a product review, but you will undoubtedly detect my enthusiasm at certain features. No product is perfect, but this is an extremely capable box. At $2,000, it is not a discount video switcher. However, you simply cannot do with any other hardware what you can do with this YOLOBOX Extreme in 4K for anywhere near this price point. If you don't need 4K or 8 HDMI inputs, there are other YOLOBOX models to consider. This one, the YOLOBOX Extreme, is the top banana right now. Now, since this video doesn't have a sponsor at all, my ask of you is to make sure that you're subscribed. I'm closing in on 100K subscribers, and if everyone who watches this video that isn't currently subscribed hits that little subscribe button, you probably will help push me over the edge, and I'd certainly appreciate that. Okay, this is going to be a long video, but it is all chapter marked, so if you need to reference or rewatch any particular portion, it should be easy to find. I'll kick this off with a hardware overview, then spend the rest of the video taking you through just about every element of the interface. There are certain capabilities that I'll talk about but not demo here because they deserve their own video, such as instant replay, network bonding, auto switching, that's video follows audio, setting up NDI in and out, SRT in and out, remote guest integration using another YOLOBOX, an actual live stream demo, which clearly needs to be done live. There's a lot of detail that need and deserve separate videos, so feel free to comment to let me know your interest to help me prioritize those. But for now, let's dive in to how to operate this beast. Let's have a little hardware tour. First of all, this is the screen. It's big, it's beautiful. We'll see that more soon. Let's check out the ports on this thing. First of all, you have 8 HDMI inputs. All of these inputs are 4K capable. The box can run 5 of them at 4K 60. So if you're running 4K 30 or lower, you can use all of them. You are limited to 5 of them simultaneously for 4K 60. Then you have 2 HDMI outputs. These are programmable, which you'll see in software, and these can be the program out, they can be a multi-view, or they can be any one of the direct inputs as a pass-through on the output. Then you've got an Ethernet port for network access, 2 USB-A ports. Those can be used for webcams, for hard drives, for just about anything you want to plug into them. You've got 2 audio inputs, one mono mic level input and one stereo line level input. So if you wanted to do your audio mixing on a separate mixing board and then feed that audio in over a line in port, you can do that. Then you've got a fully functional Type-C port, which means it can basically do anything, webcam, storage, whatever you like. And then the last USB-C port is for charging only. Looking at the bottom, you'll see a monitor audio out port. That's for your headphones. There's your SD card slot and your SIM slot if you're going to import a SIM. Then you've got a Q20 for mounting it on a tripod and the power/lock button. On the back of this, Yours will not say sample only, not for resale. The only things you'll find here are rubber feet, which actually work really well to keep it stable and keep it from sliding around, and raise it up a little bit because this right here is the fan output, not a speaker. On the sides, the only thing to see here are the antennas. So these are optional. You can take these off. We will edit this out because this is a to get off. There's your antenna port. If you're not going to use the antennas, you can just close that little door, protect that. But if you do want the Wi-Fi antennas, then these just pop right in like so. And that is the hardware. We'll power it up, give her a polish, and let's plug a few things into this. When you first fire up the YOLOBOX, this is what you're going to see. You have two options to switch between the live streaming mode and the monitor mode. Live streaming is obviously where you do your live stream, whereas monitor mode is where we're going to spend most of our time because that basically lets me operate it as if I'm live streaming, but in kind of a practice mode. Or if you were using it not to do the encoding from here, but you just wanted to do all the switching on your YOLOBOX and then have the program out going into some other third-party encoder that you wanted to stream from there. So you could use it like that. We're actually going to start though in the settings, just to have a quick look at what's in here. From this screen up in the top right, you'll see a little settings button. Tap on that, and that'll take you into all kinds of goodie information. This is the About Device page. You'll see your version number that's on here. If you want to add additional platforms to stream to, you can find that in here. You can see you've got Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and so on. Your connections are all under here. So for example, your Wi-Fi, your network connection, cellular, and so on, that's all controlled from this page. Language, date and time, keyboard, display brightness, lots of stuff in here that you may want to be able to get to. So just so you know where to find it. Neat little tip that we just figured out today. If you pull down on the screen, you actually get this little slide up, pop up, slide down display that gives you a bit of quick information. So I'm on a wired network now, so my Wi-Fi is not enabled, but you can see your IP address. If you're a Wi-Fi, of course, you'll see that there. You'll see your CPU load and the temperature of the device, the battery status, brightness, and then if you are monitoring through headphones, this will be available and you can change the output volume on the headphones. And then if you're actually live streaming, you'll see your resolution, how long you've been live, and so on. A lot of this information is available elsewhere as well, but this is just one quick and easy place to see it. Let's jump into live streaming momentarily, and then again, we're going to spend most of our time in the monitor mode. So if I go into live streaming, you'll see some tests that I ran earlier, but this is essentially where you set up a live show. I would tap on the plus, enter in the live stream title, the description, even the thumbnail if you want to. Of course, you can set all this up and then go into YouTube or Facebook or wherever and change those things as well. But this is where you create your live stream to create that initial connection. Once you've completed a show, if you want to repeat the same show, say you're doing a weekly live show and you just want to copy and paste the show to another one, then from here you can tap the little three dots in the corner and you can duplicate, or as you can see, you can delete a show as well from there. You also have access here to YOLOcast events, which we're really not going to be talking about here. It is a beta service. It's something that we will do perhaps in a future dedicated video, but this is where you access your YOLOcast events as well. Up in the top right corner next to the settings, you have this little scaling guy, so you can change the thumbnail size. So whenever you see that little icon, that tells you that you can change the size of the thumbnails or whatever it is you're looking at. Everything else in here is really going to be specific to the platform that you're streaming to. It's not worth diving into here because you're going to have to go in and play with the settings for whatever your platform is. But this is where you set up the actual live streaming event. For now, let's just go ahead and back out of here and jump into monitor mode where we're going to see the meat of this. Let's start with an interface tour. You can see the current inputs on here. I've just got two, an HDMI 8 and 7 ports. There's the camera of me that is the main show that I'm also simultaneously feeding into this, and just another video feed from outside that's feeding in. We're going to add a lot more. Don't worry about that. Here you've got your program preview. If I tap on this little double-headed arrow, that will make that bigger, so I can just get a bigger view of my show, and then tap on the double-headed arrow going the other way to collapse that down. Up at the top, you'll see your audio levels. I currently don't have any audio coming in. This camera doesn't have audio right now, so that's why it's silent, but you would see your levels there. Once you set up replay, you can access the replay page from there. You can also start recording from there. And then on the right-hand side, we have all of our other controls. You'll see down here at the bottom, there is a row of icons indicating all the different settings, different things that we can get into to mess around with, and this is where we're going to be spending a whole bunch of our time. But let's just start with the inputs themselves. Again, we have two HDMI inputs plugged in right now. There's a couple ways to add new inputs. If you just plug something in, the device will detect that and offer to add that. So let's start with that. I've got my DJI Osmo Pocket 3 here, so I'm going to fire this guy up and take its USB cable and plug it into the box. The Osmo is going to offer to put itself into webcam mode, which I will say okay, and then flip this around so that it is looking at me. There we go, face tracking enabled. Now you can see that it has automatically added itself there as USB 1, and if I want to switch to that, simply tap on it and that camera is now live. Now you can set it up so that you have to double tap to switch or even set up a program preview mode. We'll see those later, but the default setting is just one tap to switch to that video source. So right now we've got 3 video sources, that main HDMI input, this other one, a view from outside, and this webcam here. Let's go ahead and add a couple more. I'm going to plug in another HDMI camera here. This is the YoloCam, which is sitting here. I've done a video on that. You might want to check that video out. This is a camera that is designed really for the live selling market and is primarily designed to be used vertically, but can also be used horizontally, as you're seeing here. And that's that camera right there. So that one's in place. I also have a Mevo camera that is currently in NDI mode. So we'll add that one in just a moment. But let's dive into the other ways to add things into here. So the plus at the bottom, that would be the obvious step. I tap on that and you'll see just how many different video sources you can add. So the HDMI ones and the USB ones are just grayed out because they automatically appear when you plug things in. Whereas the rest of these, the lighter gray ones, are the ones that we can selectively add. So let's just run through them. We'll start with the first one, video. If I want to add video to play back, so a commercial, interstitial, pre-played video, whatever, something that's going to play back on command, I tap on the video button. It says no SD card is found because it's in my pocket, in my other shirt. Pop in the SD card and it shows me the videos that are on there. So I've got a couple videos, just YouTube videos that I'd done earlier. So I'll go ahead and add both of these. You also see at the top that I can add video from YoloCast or from a USB drive. I don't have a USB drive attached, so there's nothing there. So we'll just take these from the SD card. Tap done in the top right, and those are now added. So if I want to play one of these videos, all I got to do, just like any video source, I just tap on it and it starts to play. Back into the ad, let's see what's next. Images. Again, just pictures. If you have a picture that you want to play back during your show, this is where you get to them. You can see the pictures that I have here. I'll just add this one. It's the only one cropped to 16:9 and add that into the show. And that is now a little image that I can play back in my live show. Plus again, we'll go to PDF. If you've created a presentation in Keynote or PowerPoint or whatever, as long as you can export it out to a PDF or just any PDF, you can load that into here. So we'll take this Coffee is Good PDF, tap on done, and now there's that PDF. And you can see that it shows me I have 3 pages in this. I can advance through to the different pages right here. Now this isn't going to be an animated presentation because it's just a PDF, but you can flip through those pages on here just like so. Next up, live stream. So if we are going to bring in a live stream from another YOLO box, this is where we incorporate it. This is a whole dedicated videos. This is something I'll be doing a separate video for. Again, if it's a priority one for you, let me know down in the comments below, but try not to tell me that they're all priorities because I can't do them all at once. NDI. Now this is pretty cool. You can have up to 6 NDI sources coming into your YOLOBox Extreme. That's wireless cameras. And I've already got my Logi MevoCam here set up in NDI mode. And as you saw, it just appeared there. After a moment, it is ready to be added. So I'll select that, hit done, and there we go. There is my Mevo camera now added in. So we've got NDI, wireless NDI source coming into the YOLOBox Extreme. How cool is that? Now, this is going to give you much better performance if you do it over Ethernet than over Wi-Fi. When I first set up to record this, I had everything on Wi-Fi. The NDI video was definitely a bit choppy, but as soon as I plugged Ethernet into everything, including into the camera here, then the video got infinitely smoother, and you can see just how good that is there. All right, next up, we've got SRT. Now, I don't have an SRT source coming in right now, so I don't have a URL to set up in here. But SRT is a method where you can live stream from anywhere in the world directly to this box. So anybody with an SRT encoder or an SRT powered camera can actually send a signal directly to the YOLOBox Extreme. Again, that is a whole dedicated video that I am going to do. Then there's the web source. This allows you to take any web page and add it as a live source. Watch this. I'm just going to go ahead and type in my own website address in here, photojoseph.com. And hit go and hit done. And now my own website shows up as a source on the live stream. That's so cool. So literally any web page anywhere in the world can become a source in your live show. Neat. Finally, a couple more things that you can do on this screen. This little icon here, I told you before, brings up a scaler and wherever you see it. So I can make these icons a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger if I want to in there. And on each one of these icons, there's a little button on there. If you tap on that, it brings up a few options, including flipping, chroma keying, renaming, and so on. So I can rename each source. So instead of saying image 1 or HDMI5, it tells you what it actually is. I can flip the source on there. Let's actually do this to the source here that we're working with. So I can flip that source on there if I needed to. This is where I would enable chroma keying if I was doing a chroma key background, which we're not doing now, obviously, but you could. Yes, that set is real. I know people ask. And I can do cropping in here. I can do a transition action, which essentially means whenever I am switching from this source, what transition should it use? Should it use the system settings transition? We'll be looking at transitions later on in this video. Or whenever exiting this video, should it use a specific other transition? So you have a little bit of control over the transitions in here. Then if you are using a PTZ camera, you would access PTZ control in here by entering the IP address of the camera and then gaining access to the PTZ controller. So lots of little controls in here for each one of these that allow you to completely customize that experience. Next up, on the right-hand side, you'll see the multi-view layout. So this is where we build a multi-view layout that can be a picture-in-picture, split screen, and so on, that just becomes another source in the show. So think of it kind of like a super source. Instead of having to set up a whole super source that you switch to, you are basically making a super source, making this layout as one of your inputs. So let's just see what we can do in here. I'll do this one, this 2Views version 2. So first thing I have to do is choose my sources. So let's just take that source and I don't know, how about this one here of the outdoors? Tap on done. There it shows my basic layout. I can choose a different background in here if I want to. I can change things like the border thickness and color and so on. You can see a lot of different options in here of what these are going to look like. And then I hit done, and that just becomes another source to play back. So all of these picture-in-picture options in here are all laid out under this multi-view. You can see there's a lot of presets, and then there's a customized version where I can go in and completely customize my own look. We'll take that source, tap on done. I can position this wherever I want. I can rotate this however I like. I can flip it around if needed. I can reposition. There's really just an incredible amount of flexibility in here to build whatever layout you want. So if you can dream it, you can build it, kind of a thing. There is a lot of power in this source builder. But again, if you don't want to mess around with the custom ones, you can simply use one of the presets, of which there are quite a few in here. Let's start exploring all the buttons along the bottom. We're going to start off with this one here, which is the overlays. You'll see a title up there at the top. If I tap on plus, you'll see all the overlays that we can add. There's a bunch of them. Starting off with the web URL overlays. I'm not going to demo this here, but essentially this allows you to bring in graphics generated by a web service that can be incorporated into your live show. So Aaron Parecki has a really cool live comment system. H2R Graphics has a bunch of really cool stuff that you can incorporate. I'm going to do a separate dedicated video on this functionality, and I'll be showing off a couple of the different services that you can incorporate in. But it's just a whole other way to bring in graphics into your show. The next one is the YOLOcast overlays. So a similar thing, but from a service provided by YOLO Live themselves. Next is image overlays. Very simple. Just take any image and add that as an overlay. Here I can rename it. I can scale it if I need to. I can set an auto hide duration on here. So let's position this up here in the corner, and then I'll set a duration. Let's make it really nice and short of just a couple of seconds in here. So if I set that to say 2 seconds on there and enable auto hide, now when I bring that graphic up, it's going to pop up, fade into screen, and then fade back out again. So that is just an easy way to have things like a lower third graphic or any kind of a bug that you just want to throw up on screen for a fixed amount of time and then have it fade away, or not enable the auto hide, just tap it on and then tap it off again. Next up is lower thirds, and the lower thirds gets into the basic graphics generator so we can actually start to create our own titles in here. So let's take one of these. I'll just grab this one, for example, and you can see it says enter a title and a subtitle. You have complete control over what it's going to say. Just enter your text. So I'll just type in my name in here, Photo Joseph. I can choose the font. I can choose the size. All of this can be added onto here. You see a lot of control. I don't need to go through every piece of it. You get the idea of what you can do, and then you can position that wherever you want on there. Once that is done, that adds up as another overlay, and I tap that on, and there's my lower third. Tap it off, and away it goes. Next up is a countdown timer. So very convenient if you're going to do a live show. Typically you would pre-stream before you're actually live, maybe 5 or 10 minutes before you go, so people know the show's about to start. This gives you a little countdown overlay that you can add on. You can see a fair amount of customizability in here, obviously changing the time, how much of a countdown do you want, how many minutes do you need, and so on. the font, the colors, and all that good stuff. So there's just quite a lot of control in here over what that is going to look like. And if I load that up, you see what that looks like there. Tap it to turn it off and reset it if you need to. Titles. So now we're into just basic text on here. We can go in and put in anything you want. Again, total customizability, just like you saw on the lower thirds. You can just position this by dragging it around on screen, change the opacity of it, the font, the curves, all kinds of things in here. So just a completely customizable title generator for your show. Next up are social overlays. If you want to do something that says, hey, make sure you follow me on Instagram, these are all pre-built into here, so I can just do that. So I'm going to point out that you probably should follow me on Instagram. There we go. So add that in. Again, of course, position that wherever you want. And this also has the auto hide template on there, which is pretty cool. So tap on done, add that in. At any point, I'm like, hey, follow me on Instagram. I can tap the button. It goes up, shows for a few seconds, and then fades away after the predetermined time. And there she goes. Time overlays. So if you just want to have the current time on your live show, you can do that. Let's put that over here in the corner. We'll make it nice and big. And there you go. Now you know what time it is during your live show. Finally, you have a video overlay. So you can see this allows you to access not only the videos that are on your SD card, so pre-recorded, pre-edited videos, but also the live video. So it's just kind of another way to do a picture-in-picture, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of the pre-done videos. And for this one, I'll position this wherever I want it. Let's make it a little bit smaller in the corner here, scale that down. And again, this has an auto hide and a duration and so on. So there's really just any number of uses for this where you want to have a video playing on your screen, but not playing full screen, just playing in a corner or something like that. And that's everything in overlays. Next up, let's take a look at the audio mixing capabilities of this thing. Down here on the bottom, you'll see the next tab is our audio mixer. And as you can already see, this is pretty impressive looking. There's a lot going on in here. So first of all, each input on here has its own control. You can see the audio inputs that are currently active. So USB 1, which would be my DJI Osmo Pocket 3. You can see the audio coming in from there. And if I want audio from that source showing up in the show, I would simply tap the on button. It lights up green, and we can now see that it is the only audio that's active because now for the first time, up in the top left corner, we're seeing the audio mixer bouncing. So that shows that audio in there. I can take the levels of that up or down with the slider here. Then underneath the on button, there is the headphone monitoring button. So if I want to monitor that or not through the headphone port. And there's an AFV button, which of course is audio follows video. That means that the audio will only come on when that video is active. So now that I've turned that on, we can see that the audio is no longer lit up, meaning it's no longer a part of the show. However, if I switch to this input, which is USB 1, then it automatically lights up and now the audio is incorporated in the show. So that's audio follows video. I'll go ahead and set that back to off for now. Then as we scroll down, you'll see that every video input has its own dedicated audio setting. So there's the NDI camera, the video playback. So for example, if I play back video, let's say turn that on and then hit video 1, which was right here. That video has audio in it, and so we're now seeing that audio playing back there. Again, that can be on AFV, or it can just be on because if it's not playing, there's no audio coming out of it, but that's how that works. If I tap any other source, it's going to stop playing back that video, and of course, the audio. You can see that even the web source can have audio on there, which is pretty cool. So all the different audio controls are in here, your AFV and your levels for each individual one. Then at the very top, you have your program audio. Let's go ahead and bring some audio back in. So I'll turn my USB audio back on. So there's something happening here. Here we see we have our program master audio levels and we have our monitoring master audio levels. So you can take the monitoring level up and down from here as well. Up in the top right, we have a little button that allows us to control the line in and mic in jacks. That's the two inputs that we looked at in the very beginning. And you can see you can turn on noise reduction, you can add gain to the audio input, and you can also add an audio fade setting. So as you turn those audio inputs on and off, they fade in and out. You'll also see up here in the top right that there is a little double-headed arrow that opens this up to a much bigger audio mixer page. So if you wanted to have that larger audio mixer, now you've got it. That's everything in here to look at. The next page next to audio mixer is background music. So you have the ability now to have some subtle little background music playing behind your live show. To add music to this, tap the plus, choose any audio file that is on the SD card. So I'll just add a couple of these into here, tap on done. That loads them up. Now to play it, I can just select it and hit on play. And that's it. There's my audio playing in the background. Up at the top, you'll see the audio levels. If I tap that, I can take the percentage of that down. So I can set that to whatever levels I want. So it's nice and subtle behind all of my yammering, or have it blasting loud, whatever you need. Next up is Instant Replay. Now I'm going to do a dedicated video on this because this is a really cool, powerful, big feature, but I'll give you the quick overview and show you essentially how it works. To access our replay, you start by tapping on that little icon there, and that brings up your replay settings. You first set your replay source. So by tapping reselect here, because I'd already selected something earlier, I can choose what I want the source to be for the replay, which cameras I want it to replay. You can choose multiple and it will then play those sources back to back. So I currently have HDMI 8 and USB 1, so we'll leave those on as they were. So HDMI 8 gets a little 1 next to it, that's the first one. Then USB 1 is got 2 next to it, so that's the second one that is going to play. Now that those are selected, I can look at my replay settings. A lot of stuff in here to mess around with. You can change the replay video duration. So it's at 10 seconds by default. Let's make it a little bit shorter for the demo here. I'll just do a 5-second replay on there. You can have the replay video speed play back at the same speed, or you can make that go a little bit faster if you want to, or you can have it play in slow motion. Let's slow it down to half speed. Then your replay audio, do you want that audio to come back at full volume or lower volume or whatever? You can change your replay encoding settings. You can mute the other audio settings. You have other preferences like once I hit replay, what actually happens? Does it just save the file to be replayed back at a later time? Does it play it immediately or does it ask each time? For this demo, I'm going to leave it at always ask and then that'll give me the choice. There's a logo that you can add on there, just something that sits in the corner to show that it's a replay, not the live show. And of course, you can bring in your own custom graphics for that. And then you have preset intro and outro. So you can have a graphic or animation playing before the replay and afterwards. You'll see in a little bit here that you can actually add a different one to each playback if you wanted to. And then you can fade that in and out. We're just going to leave everything else at the default. Back out of here, activate the replay. So we got this camera on the replay and we've got this camera, which is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which has decided to look at something else. So there we go. Now we've got that. So those are the two we're using for replay. So let's just see, I'm doing my thing. And then there's something really exciting and dramatic that has now happened. And I go hit replay. So I hit the replay button. It says the replay has been generated. Please choose play now or use later. We're going to do play now. And now we're going to see those play back. So there it starts off with the camera angle 1. Playing back, and then it is going to switch over to camera angle 2. And it just happens all automatically, again, based off of the timing that I had set in the preferences. So a lot of really cool functionality in here. You can even see what is actively playing over there on the left in the replay list. You can see that I can go in and see my previous replay. So all the ones that I've done before are all set up here waiting for me to play them back. I can at any point play any one of these replays, just tap it and away it goes. And of course, again, I can add an intro or an outro to that as well. So the replay functionality is fantastic. It is really well thought out. There's a lot in here. We're going to dive deep into this in a whole separate video and see exactly what this can and can't do. Now let's take a look at the recording and encoding settings. These settings kind of incorporate system-wide. This is the resolution, frame rate, and so on that you're recording at for either recording the live program and the ISOs, or also the replay. And then of course encoding for doing the live streaming or sending out over SRT or whatever it might be. So here's the settings. It's across two different tabs down here. You have a recording setting tab and then a encoding setting tab. And the software kind of jumps back and forth between these. So starting off with the recording setting. At the top, you'll see the first thing is the recording encoding settings, which if I tap on that, will literally just take me to the next tab. So while we're in here, we'll see that we have two different sections. There's the stream encoding at the top, and it tells you that's for live streaming, NDI out, and SRT out. You can choose from here your resolution of what those are going to be, from 720 all the way up to 4K, what your frame rate is going to be for those. And then your bit rate, you can take this all the way up to 8 megabit or all the way down to 1.6 megabit. I'll just put it back to the default of 4. And then here you have these more settings that allow you to choose between H.264 or H.265. And your encoding type, CBR, that's your constant bit rate, constant quality, or variable bit rate, VBR settings. And you have the same settings in here for streaming and for recording. So I would likely be streaming at one resolution and recording at another, likely at a higher quality. So I can record my whole show at 4K, even if I'm just streaming at 1080p. But of course, the beauty of this box is that you can stream in 4K if you want to. You got your frame rate in here, which obviously should match, and your bit rate on there, which is considerably higher, all the way up to 70 megabits with a lowest option of 16 megabits. This also, under more settings, has the option to switch between H.264 and H.265, and then again, your encoding types as well. Let's go back over to the recording tab, and from here you choose your recording sources. So the program is always going to be recorded. That is your program out, your show, but then you can also record individual inputs. So you have your ISO recordings in here. We have recording limits under this. Do you want it to record just the entire clip continuously, or do you want the software to automatically start and stop recording in intervals? So it's a safety thing. If you want to have shorter intervals just so you're at less of a risk of file corruption or file damage, then you can choose that. It actually recommends to set it at 10 minutes, which honestly feels a little bit low and almost suspicious. Like, why set it so low? The ATEMs and the Rode recorders just record everything in one big long clip. But if they're recommending it, maybe it's a good idea. I have not run extensive testing on this, but we are going to do a deep dive video into this where I'll show you not only how to set this up in entirety, we'll actually do some recordings and bring them into an NLE to see what that all looks like. But that will be a whole dedicated video. I'll leave it at 10 minutes for the default because that's what it tells me to do. And then the last option here is storage settings. Where do you want the show to be recorded to? SD card or a USB drive, which is not available because I don't have one plugged in, but you can plug in an external USB drive and record to there. And that's everything to look at under the recording and the encoding settings. Next up is auto switching, and this is really neat. You have two different types of auto switching. You can set it to just play back any specific camera for any set duration of time and even randomly jump between cameras, or you can set it to video follows audio, which is your kind of podcast scenario. You got 2 or 3 people around a table, and you can have it switch between the close-up of whoever is talking as they're talking automatically. Now for that, we are going to have to do a dedicated video because this is a big one, but I want to show you how this setup works so you can see the controls that you have on this. To get into that, we tap on the auto switch button here, and again, the two options are auto switch and video follows audio. We'll start with auto switch. Tap into this to choose the settings. You can change your video sources, so simply check on or off the sources that you want it to auto switch to. Change the duration of each camera that you want it to be on, so I'll just leave it at a short 2 seconds for this. You can have it loop the process. You can have the order be sequential or random. We'll choose random. And then you have your main video source. What is the primary angle on here, which we'll say is HDMI 8, and how long do you want it to hold on that particular angle? That's all there is to it. That is set up. I go back to start, tap on the start button, and now we just let it go, and it is auto switching between these camera angles as I'm doing my thing, as I'm doing my show. It just jumps around, which is pretty slick. And at any point, I guess I should have left that less than 10 seconds. At any point when I want to stop doing this silliness, I want to just go back to manual control. I tap the disable button and we're back into full manual control in there. Now let's take a look at the video follows audio. In here, you have 3 basic settings. You got your switch delay sensitivity, so how long it's going to wait to switch after someone starts talking. You have your minimum switch duration, how long will it hold once it's switched, and then your threshold for decibels. How much does the volume have to vary before it makes that switch? And then you have, of course, your audio sources. We can choose in here which audio sources it's listening to, which will define which cameras it's going to. So I would choose my different ones in here and off we go. Now, this isn't going to work now because it's just me in here. But again, I will be doing a full demo of this. We'll bring somebody else in. We'll set up a kind of podcast scenario and we'll put it through the paces, show off all the features and find out how well it works. Cool. Now let's take a look at transitions. Now for most shows, you're probably just going to do cuts, but if you want to do something more than a cut, you can. And here's how you set it up. We'll go into the transitions chooser and you can see all the different options you've got in there. You've got cuts and fades and wipes and so on. So essentially what we'll do is choose one. Let's do something kind of silly like a window slice. You can change the duration of that, but I'll leave it at, let's just say 1.5 seconds. And now as I tap on any source, we get that window slice transition from source to source. That is all there is to that. So once you set it in here, every time you tap to transition from one source to another, that is the transition that it will use. You also have a fade to black up here at the top. Tap on that, fades to black, and it even tells you program is faded to black. There is no audio or video. To fade from black, tap on a video source or choose fade to black. So now I can just tap any other video source, tap that one there, and it comes back, and we're back in business. So that's transitions, not a whole lot to it. For the most part, you're probably gonna leave it in the cuts or maybe a little fade, but if you wanna get fun with it, those are the choices you have. Finally, the last page to look at is the settings. Now, this is a second settings page to the one that we saw in the beginning of the video. This is the settings from within the video switcher that we're in right now. And to get to that, you tap on the gear in the top right corner, and we now have all of these options. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. So the first option is your director mode. So we're in the classic mode right now. We can switch over to the director mode, and this will give us a classic preview program mode. So whatever video source I tap on is going to load up into the preview, but not play live, and it won't go live until I tap on the preview to program button here in the middle, and it switches that over. So if I want to go back to another source, I can preview that. Which angle do I want to go to now? Let's do that one. Tap on that, and away it goes. So that is your kind of classic preview program mode that you can work within. Or again, we can just go back to our default classic mode, although this one's called classic. I think the other one's more classic, but there you go. And we can just one tap switch between the different sources. Next, you have a little info display. You see it here, it says show CPU info. We can turn that on or off. It's just a little overlay up in the top corner of the screen there to give you an idea of what stress the machine is under. Now, this is actually quite important, and this is something I haven't talked about before, of how this system determines just how much of any one thing you can do. So in the beginning, I mentioned that you can do 4K 60, but you can have up to 5 inputs on that. If you do 4K 30, you can have more inputs. The capabilities of this machine vary dramatically depending on what you're asking of it. So more inputs, more ability to record, more live stream sources, just kind of everything is depending on the CPU power. When you see that CPU number raising up close to 100%, you are running into the maximum of what the box can do. So when people ask, well, how many streams can it do? How many of this can it do? What can you do if you're combining this and this? It's really hard to know until you actually try it, because it just does completely depend on what else you're doing in the box. So that, again, is a very important thing to monitor there. I can also bring this up and see a little bit of a CPU usage info guide that'll tell me a little bit more about what to expect from each camera input, web overlay, and so on. So that's a useful guide to give you some ideas of what you can and can't do in here. Moving on, video source switch. Classic mode is click to switch, but you can also do a double click. So I can't accidentally tap on a source and switch to it. I have to double tap to switch to that. So that can be convenient so you don't accidentally tap on any source and switch to it unexpectedly. I'm going to go back to click to switch. Then you can do the same thing in director mode. Do you want to double click to switch in director mode as well? So you have that option there. Local video settings. That's the video that you're playing back from the SD card. What do you want it to do when you first start playing a video again for a second time? Do you want it to resume back to the first frame and then pause, of course, when you switch? Or do you want it to just pause when switching, which means when you go back to it, it'll keep on playing where it left off. And then when it gets to the end, does it loop or does it just stop at the last frame? Options that you have in here. HDMI 1, 2, and 3 in settings. So your HDMI 1, 2, and 3 inputs are your most powerful inputs. Those have other capabilities that we'll see in just a moment here, and you can choose on here what frame rate they're coming in at. You can limit it to 30p, 50p, or 60p. So you can choose the limitation for that HDMI input, which of course is going to affect the processing power of the machine. Under output settings, you have 2 HDMI outs. So if I go into the HDMI output, I can choose individually. You can see at the top HDMI output 1 and then HDMI output 2. What you've been looking at this whole time, the recording of the monitor here, is HDMI output 1 plugged into a recorder that I have off screen here, and that is recording at 4K 25p because everything here is 25p, so that's what I'm recording at. But you can see this is why we've been able to record at such a high quality for the actual monitor view, because it is actually outputting a full 4K signal for me to record for you guys to see, which is an amazing and beautiful thing in here. You can choose what is being viewed. You can see the little checkbox there. It's currently set to mirror out. Now I can't actually choose any of those right now because it'll change what's recording. So I'm going to change HDMI output 2 because it's the same options. So here's what I can change. There's that mirror out. So again, mirroring the entire screen, which is what you're looking at now. I can choose to play the program out. I can do a multi-view out. And here, this is so cool. I can get into full customizability of what the multi-view looks like. I have a bunch of different layouts in here that are pre-built. I can go in here and change what each one of these sources is. So you just have an incredible amount of control for what your multi-view is going to be, including recording info, live streaming info, and so on, all displayed in this beautiful multi-view output. Because this has 2 HDMI outs, if you don't want to monitor everything on this screen, if you want to have a bigger screen in front of you where you can monitor everything, you can do that. And again, because it has 2 outs, you could have the program out on one and the multi-view out on another, or whatever you wanted. Really, really cool way to go. Let's jump out of there. And the last option here for outputs is this custom out. So you can choose what video sources you want out. So I can choose any dedicated input to have just that on the output. So meaning if I always want to see I don't know, USB 1 coming in on a big screen because that's just a really critical input, I can do that. I can choose to view that on one of the HDMI outputs and have that up on display all the time. Most likely you're going to use program or the multi-view out. That's going to be your most common use case for this. Next up is USB-C out. Now remember, this has a fully functional USB-C port on it that I told you in the beginning can be used to bring anything in, but it can also be used to send data out. Now it does tell you on here that its default state is to be in input mode. So if you want to use it as an output, you have to first enable that and then connect the cable to it. If you connect the cable while it's on input mode and then switch it to out, it's not going to work. So it tells you all this here. So this USB-C out essentially will allow you to use this as a webcam, right? So you can take your 8 HDMI inputs and then put the USB-C out into your computer and treat your YOLObox as a webcam source and then do all the switching for feeding into a Zoom call or a Teams meeting or whatever you got to do. That's pretty cool. I'm going to turn that off and go back to input mode on there. Then you have your NDI out. So again, with NDI, we will be doing a dedicated video on this because there's a lot that goes into it. But the NDI out is quite straightforward. What do I want to send out over NDI? Program any of the individual inputs, and then it'll send that out as an NDI source. That means that I can then pick up that NDI signal on any other NDI capable device on the same network and bring that in as part of somebody else's show. SD card management, pretty straightforward. I can see the individual files that are on my SD card. I can select these to delete them from here if I want to. And then portable storage, that would of course be a USB drive that's plugged in. I don't have one, but you would see the same thing there. You'd see everything that's on it. Then you have mobile web control. Well, this is kind of fun. Did you know that you can actually control your YOLObox from an app on Android, not on iOS yet, that's coming, or through a web browser? Let's take a look at this. Give me a second. The website you have to go to on another device is web-control.yololive.com/web-control. The H5 just got added in there automatically. You don't actually need that there. Now, I don't know why it's this complicated URL, and I certainly don't know why that URL is not displayed on this monitor here. Maybe I'll find out and have to cut this part out of the video because it's a secret or something. But as far as I know, this is not a secret. You just have to find that URL and then punch in the IP address. Now, this does only work on the same local network, so obviously I'm on one network here. It tells me the IP address of my YOLObox Extreme is 10.01.47, so I'm just going to enter that in here, 10.01.47, and hit connect. And we have now gained control of my YOLObox from a web browser. So as I start switching on here on the iPad or running on a computer or even on a phone in a mobile browser, you can see that I have control of the YOLObox from the web browser on my device. That's really cool. Next up is YOLOdeck configuration. This is an optional piece of hardware. I said in the beginning that you can do everything in this box. You don't need anything else, and that is 100% true, but you can add stuff if you want to. So they have a dedicated little box called the YOLOdeck, which is, not that dissimilar from the Stream Deck. Why they didn't just use Stream Deck, I don't know. But they didn't. They have their own product. So you can then control certain aspects of the hardware from the YOLOdeck. You can control what shows up on the YOLOdeck by tapping this button here, configure, and then it launches into this little interface where you can choose exactly what you want to show up on those buttons. So lots of different choices in here. I don't have a YOLOdeck to show you, but you choose whatever you want to be on those buttons, and you can now control your YOLObox Extreme from the YOLOdeck. YOLO. Quiet in the peanut gallery. Well, there you have it, folks, your rapid fire deep dive into the YOLObox Extreme. As you can see, this box is so incredibly capable. There are so many features in here, including a bunch of things that we've just barely touched on that I do need to do dedicated videos for. So once again, if you have a specific video that you want to see, let me know in the comments. The ones that rise to the top are the ones that will get the attention first, and I'll make those videos next. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget, there was no sponsor for this video, so my sponsor is you. Click that subscribe button, get me up to 100K. That helps in ways that you can't possibly imagine. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next video.